All right, hello everyone, it's Katie from the Clark. Today we're going to be doing a quick little walk around here in Nealis Hall. So since we are open and there are people kind of cruising around, this will be a shorter video, and I'll talk a little bit about what we're going to do with future Ask the Curators as well. So, first thing, let me flip this around so you can all see the hall. So, and while we're walking around today, if there's any questions or specific things you want to see, feel free to put them in the comments, and I will do my best to answer them and or go find them. So today, let's see, talk a little bit about this guy. So this is Kiwilata. And this is actually a pretty famous picture. So Kiwilata was a Wiyot elder who was around when the Greg Wood party came through the area in 1850. And I mean, from the stories I've heard, Kiwilata was particularly helpful with kind of that early period of exploration there right on the bay. This is a pretty gorgeous portrait as well. This was done by a guy named Stephen Shaw, pretty famous painter. And it technically is owned by the Society of Humboldt County Pioneers. They have it here on extended loan. This is something a lot of people kind of miss while they're walking around the museum, so I figured I'd point it out. You can see the plank houses here in the background. Kind of a gathering basket here. Really great picture. Here's our little Wiyot alcoves. This kind of talks a little bit about the Wiyot tribe. The museum's located on Wiyot land, which is part of the reason why we have this display specifically about the Wiyot. And there's, of course, a couple of Wiyot items on display. Hazel James, a photo of her. She's a Wiyot basket weaver. Some other information. A lot of this has to do with, well, some of this has to do with what happened on Tulawat and then the return of Tulawat and the continued revitalization of tradition. And then a couple of Wiyot members of the military. And this was something, if you haven't been through here since we reopened, this little display here with all these weavers is new. So these are all portraits, and I'll walk a little bit closer so you can actually see them. So these are all portraits that were taken in the 80s when there was a project going on to interview weavers about their work, things that were impacting their work as weavers, and the tradition of weaving. So these are some pretty gorgeous portraits of weavers, sometimes weaving, sometimes sitting with one of their works, or just a nice portrait. And we do have documentation of all of these interviews. We don't have the recordings anymore, but we have written records of them. And those interviews have been used in different academic papers and things like that. We have a book here called Baskets and Weavers that also uses information from those interviews as well. And you'll notice as you're walking around Nealis Hall, too, that you'll recognize some of these names. We do our best to include the names of the weavers with their baskets, as long as we have the information available. It's pretty quiet in here today, so if you're looking to come by the museum, between now and 4 is a good time to do it. It's pretty quiet here. I'm going to walk you over to some of my favorite baskets. As I walk through here, pretty much every time I walk through here, I see something new. And these two I more recently noticed while we were doing a video tour. I hadn't realized these were on display. These are both Lucy Hickox baskets. If you tuned into our broadcast last week, Hickox, you'll notice, is a very familiar name. Elizabeth Hickox was mentioned in the last video. But these are pretty incredible baskets, not only because of their color, check out that really cool black and yellow contrast, but the fact that there's so much black work is really notable. Because Maidenhair Fern, which is where you get the black coloring, is really, really hard to use. So really it's only the most skilled weavers are using it, and being able to use so much black really shows off that skill. And then the yellow color is Oregon grapefruit dyed porcupine quills. So Oregon grapefruit has a yellow dye color when you use it to dye things, and the porcupine quills is what is dyed and then overlaid. And these are both pretty small baskets, which, I mean, if we want to try to do like a hand size comparison, that's not very good, but there may be 4 inches across, maybe. Got some caps here. And some, well, that's a cap. These are some trinket baskets, a mini basket tray. And this is also probably one of my favorite caps in here. Really, really interesting design going on here with the lines in the obsidian blade. So the obsidian blade is kind of this parallelogram shape. And then I've heard different names for the kind of zigzag that goes through it. But then there's also this snake nose, little triangle here. There's a lot happening here. All right, so I've seen a couple people tune in. So if you have anything specific you want to see, or if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. This will be kind of a shorter broadcast today, so we're just kind of cruising around, taking a look. So these are items related to the brush dance. And here's kind of a picture of them in use. Or not these exact items, but and I believe, if I remember right, part of the reason why it's called the brush dance is because of these that kind of stick out of the back of these quivers. When there were anthropologists or whatnot describing the dances, they thought it looked like grass, little sticks of grass sticking out of the quivers, so they called it the brush dance, if I remember right. And so, taking a closer look at some of these. So the red feather kind of parts here, and then also here and here, those are all pileated woodpecker scalps. And that shows up in, of course, this regalia, but then also sometimes shows up in other places as well. This right here is an abalone shell button. You'll see the bottom one right there. Kind of has some extra detail work on it. And so this piece here, this is called a bandolier. It's got, I think, 22 pileated woodpecker scalps on it. And then this is called a head roll. It has, oh man, I think I might be mispronouncing this, but Ilra? that might be wrong. If someone else has a better pronunciation. So this is a headdress part that goes in here, and then these two feathers are stuck in it. And you'll see that down here. There we go. So that's part of the dance, and that's made up of kind of a composite of feathers. And then this one has some, looks like plastic beads. So this is probably a newer piece here. And there's, of course, some more information here if you come in and want to check it out. And this is by the Hover Collection case, so in case you come in looking for it, that's where it's at. I also really like this basket. It's got that nice dark red color with it. And that is a sharp tooth design. That's pre-1900. And you'll notice it actually shows up right here as well. And that's made by Grace Davis, who's Karuk. Anywho, so there's not a whole heck of a lot on the agenda, but I thought you all would like to see some of the baskets. Come by and visit them. They like seeing people. And if you have any questions, feel free to toss them in the comments there, or just enjoy the stroll. These are also, these are also pretty cool. A while back, it was over a year ago now, someone came by and was asking to see the world's smallest basket, and I didn't really know what to tell them, but they said that they had come in when they were a kid, and someone had told them that the world's smallest basket was on display here, and of course I couldn't verify that, but we do have some pretty small baskets. So we have a question from Mary Lou. She says, do you have any Violet Moore work, Pequan? Ooh, I've heard the name Violet Moore. I'm trying to think off the top of my head if I've seen anything specific. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but as we're walking around a little bit, I'll continue to keep an eye out. Yeah. Sorry, it's not the best answer. I definitely recognize Violet's name. She was in the list of notable women for Humboldt County in that exhibit that we were working on. I'm trying to think if we have anything from her. I'm not sure we do. I always thought this was kind of an interesting design. Just a very wide band. It's a king snake design variation. There's a fly stuck back here. I can hear it buzzing. top here is very interesting. It looks like, well, a lot of my experience is in quilts and whatnot, but it looks almost like a crazy quilt stitch design. Notice that this one looked like a paper boat. But this is a suspender slide design, and this is a variation on it. And when you look at both of them, you can kind of see how the variation is really a variation on this one. And grizzly bear paw, which is the one on the side here. This is called crab claw up top here. I'm not sure if that's crab claw, but I like the top on this one. It's almost a little button, but it's like, or it's almost a knob, but it's just pushed down to be almost like a button. And this is also crab claw. It's kind of fun just walking around, checking them out, saying hello. When there was someone who came by, this is kind of a fun story. Well, I wouldn't say fun, maybe that's kind of the wrong word for it. But there was someone who came by and was talking to me about this Brizard's catalog. So of course Brizard's, as we've kind of mentioned before, Brizard's would send people out to go purchase baskets, and then they would resell them in their stores, largely to people from out of the area, basket collectors, stuff like that. And so there's a number of these baskets that have ended up in the Clark collection, including this one, which is actually just right over here. Oh, there it is. There was a guy that came by who had told me that he had worked with with this collection earlier, before Nealis Hall was built, and he's told me, the Clark has some of these baskets from Brizard's, and I said, yeah, I've heard about that. And he said, well, do you know how she got them? And I was like, oh, I don't really know. And according to him, there was someone who had gotten many of Brizard's baskets and must have passed away or something. And so the baskets were thrown away, and she was able to salvage them from the dump. Now, I'm not 100% sure if that's true, but it was a story I had heard. And if it is true, that's pretty darn incredible. And what a save, But he said he's going to come back and visit another day, so I'm hoping he'll come back and I can ask him some more questions about that, because that is pretty crazy. So this is also the same basket. It's just really hard to tell because the picture's so dark. But in person, if you're really looking at it, you can tell. These are kind of cool. They're mini me. The only one that's different is this one has a little bit of that alder dyed bear grass right there. It's kind of reddish. And this is just black and yellow. I really like this one too. I'm not really sure why, but maybe it's just because it looks like a old obsidian blade over a new obsidian blade. I'm not really sure. I always kind of liked it. And this one too. It almost, this kind of design along the top rim here reminds me a bit of things you see in Greece. Like the country, not the movie. This one's also got a really interesting top on it. It's got this kind of stick woven edge, very similar that you'd see on trays. And this little display I really like too because there are mirrors under here. This was a genius idea, Brittany, if you're tuning in. Thank you again. To put the basket on a pedestal above a mirror so you can actually see the bottoms of it. So this is a particularly cool one. They got kind of this stripey looking design on it. Pretty darn cool idea. You'll be seeing more of this around with the baskets and mirrors. So for those of you tuning in, if you have any questions, put them in the comments. I can see them, so I can try to answer your questions. Or if there's anything particular you want to see, I can do my best to find it. Just checking out the baskets today. Oh, and also, in case you didn't know, today is, let's see, I've seen it referred to two different ways. California Indian Day and California Native American Day. So if you by chance are familiar with the local state parks, I know they're doing some programs online today with some of their interpreters who are local Native people. You can also come by check out our museum here at the Clark until 4. And also, if you've ever been up to Patrick's Point, there is Sumeg Village, of course. That's got the recreated plank house village. So you can go and see the houses out there, which we also have one of those, but it is considerably smaller and you can't climb in it. So there's that. But definitely worth checking out. Usually locally there's all kinds of events going on for it, but due to COVID, of course, that's not the case this year. This one's kind of cool, and it's hard to see here in this light, or particularly through the phone, but this is actually, you can kind of see it. So there's bare grass. Let me try to point it out. Bare grass. And then that, the stripe in this triangle here, looks like it is dyed porcupine quill. It's just very faded. So it's not as vibrant as we've seen in other caps today. And then also in this skip kind of design right here, it's also yellow. And right here in this stripe in this kind of obsidian blade triangle shape. Very nice weave on this one. So Ian says, love it there. Yep, we do too. So this is a model, a scale model, 1/6 scale of a traditional plank house. Let's see if I can kind of get more of it all in one picture here. So this would be the front of the house. You can see there's a round door here. And a bunch of different people have different reasons for why it's round. Some having to do with heat retention, some having to do with keeping animals out. Others have more of a story link to them. But these are all redwood planks here. And then the planks are bound together by these kind of cross beams. And then these are roots that are tied to keep the roof beams down. And then up here you'll see this is an opening that keeps the rain from getting in, but it lets the smoke get out. So when you're in the house, so you can see there's the door. There's a little kind of staircase leading down to the center pit area. And then the light bulb's supposed to be where the fire's at. Of course, we can't have an actual fire in here. That would be very bad. So everyone would sleep in this area, and actually when I say everyone, I should probably specify, women and children slept in this kind of sunken down area here, and then this upper part was used for storage. So those really big baskets you see around here, those storage baskets, those would be sitting up here, and they'd have acorns in them, and other things that need to be stored. And then of course there'd be a fire, and then things drying from the rafters. You can kind of see right here. Very cozy. I can imagine that it'd be nice to spend a cold winter night in here. Alrighty, so thanks for tuning in, and we will see you all in the next couple weeks. Have a good one.